The emergency alarm echoed through the massive halls of Harmony Prime Station. Red lights flashed across every corridor as delegates from across the galaxy rushed toward the main council chamber. The station, built in neutral space between the major powers, had never seen such panic before. Ambassador Taeho Kim walked slowly through the chaos. Other delegates pushed past him, their alien forms moving in desperate hurry. The tall human wore his dark blue uniform with calm dignity. His face showed no emotion, but his sharp eyes took in everything around him. Inside the council chamber, hundreds of beings filled the circular room. The air buzzed with dozens of different languages as translation devices worked overtime. At the center, a massive holographic display showed the outer rim of the galaxy. Red dots marked conquered worlds. There were too many to count. Council Speaker Velther, a being made of living crystal, called for order. Her voice rang like bells as she spoke. Fellow representatives, we face the gravest threat in galactic history. The Vorthak Empire has destroyed 47 worlds in just 3 cycles. Their bioships grow stronger with each victory. A wave of fear swept through the chamber. The Nithari delegate, his crystal body flickering with nervous light, stood to speak. Speaker Velther, our colony on Kepler 7 fell yesterday. The Vorthak ships ... everything. The metal, the buildings, even the ground itself. Nothing remains but empty space. Gasps filled the air. The Emiri representative, a cloud of glowing gas in a containment suit, floated forward. The same happened to our research station at Tau Ceti, but worse, the bioships grew larger after consuming a facility. They feed on both organic matter and technology. Ambassador Kim listened without speaking. His hands remained folded in his lap as horror stories filled the chamber. World after world had fallen to the Vorthak. The enemy's living ships could heal from any damage. They adapted to new weapons during battle. Traditional warfare meant nothing against them. The Delphin ambassador, her aquatic form visible through her water-filled suit, spoke with a trembling voice. Our deep space scouts report that the Vorthak fleet now numbers in the thousands. Each ship is the size of a small moon. They move toward the core systems like a plague of locusts. Speaker Velther's crystal form dimmed with sadness. We have tried everything. Energy weapons, kinetic bombardment, even nuclear devices. The bioships simply absorb the damage and grow stronger. Our greatest scientific minds cannot find a weakness. A reptilian delegate from the Saurian Federation stood up. His scaled hands shook as he held a data tablet. The pattern is clear. The Vorthak are not just conquering, they are consuming. Every world they take feeds their overmind. Intelligence suggests they seek to devour all matter in the galaxy. The chamber fell silent. The weight of extinction pressed down on every being present. Children of a dozen species would never see another sunrise if the Vorthak could not be stopped. All eyes turned to the human section. Ambassador Kim sat alone while other species had multiple representatives. The humans had been strangely quiet. During recent emergency sessions, some delegates whispered that Earth had abandoned the outer worlds to their fate. Speaker Velther addressed him directly. Ambassador Kim, the human worlds remain untouched by this threat. Your species possesses advanced technology and military experience. Will Earth aid us in this dark hour? Kim stood slowly. His movements were precise and controlled. The chamber grew quiet as he walked to the speaking platform. When he turned to face the assembly, his expression remained unreadable. The reports of Vorthak activities are concerning, Kim said in his calm voice. Humanity has been monitoring the situation with great interest. We understand the severity of the threat. The Nithari delegate's crystal form flashed with hope. Then you will help us? Human military tactics are legendary. Your species has experience with total war. Kim paused for a long moment. His dark eyes swept across the desperate faces around him. We are considering our options. Earth's response will come when the time is right. Angry voices erupted across the chamber. The Emiri representative's gas cloud turned red with frustration. Considering options, worlds are dying every day. How can you remain neutral while genocide unfolds? The Saurian delegate slammed his clawed hand on his desk. We need action, not consideration. Every moment of delay costs innocent lives. Kim raised his hand for silence. The gesture was simple, but something in his manner made the chamber grow quiet. Humanity does not make promises lightly. When we act, it will be decisive. Until then, we ask for your patience. The human ambassador bowed slightly to Speaker Velther and returned to his seat. The council erupted in debate, but Kim sat in silence. He touched a small device on his wrist, sending an encrypted message into the void. Far from Harmony Prime. In the deep space between star systems, massive construction continued around the clock. The largest shipyard in human history floated in the darkness, hidden from all sensors by advanced stealth technology. Thousands of workers moved like ants across the skeletal frame of something impossible. Admiral Sojin Park stood on the observation deck of the construction station. Her weathered face showed the strain of 3 years without rest. Through the reinforced windows, she watched the final stages of humanity's greatest project. The ship taking shape before her defied all logic. 50 kilometers of hull stretched into the distance. The engineering required to build something so massive should have been impossible. Yet there it was, nearly complete. Status report, Admiral Park said to her aide. Commander Haijin Yoon checked her datapad. Hull completion at 98%. Main weapon systems installed and tested. Power core online and stable. We're on schedule for final trials next week, Park nodded. The project had consumed the resources of dozen human worlds. Every major corporation and government had contributed. Scientists had worked miracles to solve problems that existed only in theory. The cost had been enormous, but the alternative was unthinkable. Any word from the council session? Park asked. Ambassador Kim followed the script perfectly. The alien. Delegates are frustrated, but still hopeful. They believe we're simply being cautious. A thin smile crossed Park's face. Let them think that. The longer they believe humans are just considering options, the better. We need time for final preparations. Through the observation window, the massive ship's hull gleamed with a pearl-white finish. Korean characters flowed along its sides. An elegant script. The name was simple but perfect for what it represented. Has Captain Nam finished his crew selection? Park asked. Yes, Admiral. The best of the best from every branch of service. They're completing final training simulations. Now, Captain Nam reports his people are ready for anything. Park turned away from the window. In her private moments, the weight of responsibility nearly crushed her. Humanity's survival, and perhaps the survival of all galactic civilization, depended on what they had built. There would be no second chances. Send word to all department heads, she ordered. Final inspection begins tomorrow. If everything checks out, we launch in 72 hours. As Commander Yoon hurried away, Park remained alone with her thoughts. The galaxy thought humans were cowards, hiding while others died. They could not know the truth yet. When the moment came, when hope seemed lost and darkness covered the stars, humanity would reveal what they had built in secret. The Vorthak had never faced anything like what was coming. Neither had anyone else in the galaxy. In 72 hours, the balance of power would shift forever. Park only hoped it would be enough to save them all. Captain Woo-seok Lee gripped the armrests of his command chair as the silent dawn shuddered under enemy fire. Red alerts flashed across every screen on the bridge. His small reconnaissance ship was fast, but the Vorthak scouts were gaining ground. Evasive. Maneuvers! Lee shouted over the noise of straining engines. Get us behind that asteroid field. Lieutenant Ji-min Han worked frantically at the navigation console. Captain, these aren't like any ships we've seen before. They're not following normal physics. Through the main view screen, Lee watched their pursuers with growing horror. The Vorthak scout ships looked like massive organs torn from some alien body. Their hulls pulsed with veins of living metal. Tentacles writhed along their sides, reaching out toward the human vessel. They're alive, whispered communications officer. Dalho Troy. The ships are actually alive. The lead Vorthak vessel fired again. Instead of energy beams or missiles, it launched globs of acidic biomatter that ate through space itself. The Silent Dawn's shields flared as the organic weapons struck. "Hull breach on Deck 4, reported Damage Control. The bioacid is spreading through the bulkheads. Lee made a hard decision. "Emergency jump to hyperspace. Get us out of here now." The Silent Dawn vanished in a flash of light, leaving the Vorthak scouts behind. But what Lee had seen would haunt him forever. The enemy ships had been feeding on the wreckage of their last victims. Metal and organic matter disappeared into their hulls like food being digested. 3 days later, Lee stood in a briefing room on Earth's main military station. Holographic displays showed the battle footage his ship had recorded. The room was filled with the highest-ranking officers in the Human Defense Force. Admiral Sojin Park studied the images with a grim expression. "How many ships did you count?" "In the main fleet." "At least 300, Admiral," Lee replied. "But they were constantly changing. Some ships would merge together to form larger ones. Others would split apart into smaller vessels. It's like they're one organism instead of separate ships." General Kyung-ho Bae leaned forward. "What about their weapons?" "Our intelligence reports mention bioorganic attacks," Lee nodded. "They don't. Just destroy targets, they consume them. I watched a Vorthak cruiser literally eat a destroyed frigate. The metal and debris were absorbed into its hull. The ship grew larger afterward. Silence filled the room. The implications were terrifying. An enemy that grew stronger by consuming its victims was unlike anything humanity had faced before. "Admiral," Park activated another display. "This confirms our worst fears. The Vorthak aren't just conquerors. They're parasites on a galactic scale. Every victory makes them more powerful." Intelligence Director Chang-Woo Park entered the room carrying classified files. "We've intercepted Vorthak communications. Their language is complex, but our computers have made progress translating it." He activated an audio recording. "Alien." Sounds filled the room, not words, but something like organic machinery mixed with screaming. The translation appeared on screen as subtitles. "The feast continues. New worlds offer fresh sustenance. The overmind grows fat on consumed matter. Soon we reach the core systems where the greatest prizes await." Dr. Yoongi Choi, the project's head scientist, spoke up from her corner seat. "The biology is fascinating and terrifying. They appear to be a collective organism spread across thousands of ships. Each vessel is like a cell in a massive body. Can they be killed?" asked General Bae. Dr. Choi hesitated. "Traditional weapons damage individual ships, but the collective simply heals the wounds by transferring matter from other vessels. To truly defeat them, we would need to destroy the entire organism at once." Admiral Park stood and walked to the main display, "Which brings us to why we're here. Project Titan enters final testing tomorrow. If our calculations are correct, we may have found a way to do exactly that." The officers exchanged glances. Most of them had heard rumors about Project Titan, but few knew the details. The secrecy around it was absolute. "What about the Galactic Council?" asked Captain Lee. "They're begging for our help." "The Council will receive our help when we're ready to give it properly," Park replied. "Right now, revealing our hand too early would be disastrous. The Vorthak would adapt their tactics if they knew what we were building." Meanwhile, in the hidden shipyard, Captain Jin Woo Nam walked through the corridors of the most advanced vessel ever constructed. The walls around him hummed with power from systems that pushed the boundaries of known physics. "Final crew briefing in 10 minutes, announced Commander Hai-Jin Yoon over the ship's communication system. All department heads to the main conference room. Nam made his way through passages wide enough to drive vehicles through. The ship's scale was almost impossible to comprehend from the inside. It had taken him weeks just to learn the basic layout. In the conference room, his senior staff waited. These were the best officers humanity had to offer. Each had been chosen for their specific skills and absolute loyalty. "People," Nam began, We're about to test the most powerful weapon ever created. Everything we've trained for comes down to the next few days. Chief Engineer Donghayan Kong, what's our status? Kang consulted his tablet. All primary systems are operational. The gravitational manipulator has passed every simulation. Power core efficiency is at 112% of projected output. Weapons Officer Bio Ra Shin spoke next. Target drones are in position at the test range. We'll have a full spectrum of targets to evaluate our capabilities against. Nam nodded. Communications Officer Sung-Ho Lee, any word from Admiral Park? The Admiral confirms we launch for trials. In 18 hours, all census stations will be monitoring our performance. Through the conference room's windows, the ship's massive hull stretched into the distance. Workers in spacesuits completed final inspections along the exterior. Supply ships delivered the last components needed for full operation. I want everyone to understand what we're about to do, Nam continued. This ship represents humanity's best hope against an enemy that cannot be reasoned with or defeated by conventional means. When we launch, we carry the hopes of every living being in the galaxy. The officers remained silent, feeling the weight of responsibility not far from the human shipyard. The Vorthak fleet continued its advance toward the galaxy's core. Scout ships reported rich worlds ahead, filled with advanced civilizations and abundant resources for consumption. The Overmind pulsed with hunger as it processed reports from its scouts. Thousands of bioships moved through space like antibodies in a vast bloodstream. Each ship contained part of the collective consciousness that drove the swarm forward. New prey had been detected in recent cycles. The humans showed promise as a food source. Their technology was advanced, their worlds rich with both organic and metallic resources. The Overmind anticipated the feast to come, but the collective organism had one weakness it did not recognize. It had never encountered a species that could strike back with such devastating force that no adaptation would be possible. The Vorthak had conquered through overwhelming numbers and the ability to consume their enemies. They had never faced an enemy that could erase them from existence entirely. As the test day approached, both hunter and prey prepared for a confrontation that would determine the fate of all life in the galaxy. The Vorthak saw only food ahead. Humanity saw only one chance to save everything they held dear. Tomorrow would reveal which vision of the future would survive. Sanctuary Station had become the last hope for the galaxy. The massive orbital fortress hung in space like a metal mountain, bristling with weapons from a dozen different species. Over 1 million beings lived and worked within its armored walls. Admiral Min Ho Young stood on the command deck, watching the long-range sensors with growing dread. The Vorthak fleet was coming. Thousands of bioships moved through space like a living nightmare. Each vessel pulsed with organic machinery and hungry intelligence. Status report, Young ordered. Captain Hyan-Woo Kim checked his displays. Combined fleet stands at 400 ships from 11 species. The Nithari have contributed their crystal dreadnoughts. The Delphins brought their deep space carriers. Even the neutral Emiri have sent battle cruisers, Jung nodded grimly. It was the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. Under normal circumstances, such a fleet could conquer entire star systems. Against the Vorthak, it might buy them a few hours. What about the human fleet? Asked Commander So-Young Park. Still no word from Earth, Kim replied. Ambassador Taeho? Kim left the station yesterday. His ship jumped to hyperspace toward human space. He wouldn't say why. Frustration filled Jung's voice. Of all the times for humans to stay neutral, we could use their tactical experience right now. Through the command deck's massive windows, Jung could see ships from across the galaxy forming defensive lines. Sleek Nithari vessels with crystal hulls floated alongside the organic curves of Delphin bioships. Emiri cloud ships drifted like controlled storms between the metal giants of a dozen other species. Sir, incoming transmission from the lead Nithari vessel. Reported communications. Admiral Jeltara's crystalline form appeared on the main screen. Her body flickered with nervous energy as she spoke. Admiral Jung, our deep scouts report the Vorthek will arrive in 6 hours. The enemy numbers over 8,000 ships. 8,000. Jung tried not to show his fear. The combined fleet was outnumbered 20 to 1. Understood, Admiral. All ships maintain defensive positions. We make our stand here. The hours pass slowly. Crews across the fleet made final preparations. Weapons were charged. Shields were tested. Messages were sent to families who might never see their loved ones again on the Delphin flagship. Admiral Narthel floated in her water-filled command chamber. Her aquatic species had faced extinction before, but never on this scale. The bioships approaching them were unlike anything in nature. They represented corruption of life itself. Fleet Admiral, her aide reported, the Saurian battle group. Reports ready? They've armed their ships with viral weapons designed to attack organic matter. Good, Narthel replied through her translation device. Every advantage matters now. Aboard the Emiri vessel Stormfront, Captain Velquan controlled his gaseous form within the ship's atmospheric containment systems. His species existed as living clouds, but they understood the threat facing all life in the galaxy. Energy weapons? Charged, his weapons officer reported. Lightning cannons ready to discharge. The Vorthek fleet finally appeared on the edge of sensor range. At first, they looked like a dark cloud spreading across space. As they grew closer, individual ships became visible. The sight made seasoned warriors feel sick with fear. The bioships writhed through space like massive worms. Their hulls pulsed with veins of living metal. Tentacles reached out from their sides, grasping at empty space as if hungry for something to consume. Some ships were the size of small moons. Others looked like clusters of organs held together by sinew and bone. "My stars," whispered Captain Kim. "How do you fight something like that?" Admiral Young activated the fleet communication system. "All ships, this is Admiral Young. Today we stand between civilization and extinction. Every species represented here has contributed their best ships and bravest crews. We fight not just for our own worlds, but for the future of all life in the galaxy." The Vorthak fleet moved into attack range. The lead bioship opened communication channels. Instead of words, it transmitted images directly into the minds of every being in the defending fleet. The images showed worlds being consumed. Planets stripped of all matter until only empty space remained. Cities dissolved into biomatter that fed the hungry ships. Billions of lives ended in moments of pure terror. Then came the voice of the Overmind itself. It spoke in every language simultaneously. Its words like acid in the minds of those who heard them. "You gather here to die with dignity. We appreciate the gesture. Your ships will feed our growth. Your worlds will sustain our journey to the galactic core. Resistance is meaningless. All ships open fire." Jung commanded, 400 vessels. Unleashed everything they had. Energy beams, missile salvos, and exotic weapons lit up space like a second sun. The attack was magnificent and terrible to behold. The weapons struck the Vorthek bioships with devastating force. Hulls cracked, organic matter boiled away. Several smaller ships were completely destroyed. Then the nightmare began. The damaged bioships began to heal. Cracks sealed themselves. Missing sections regrew like healing wounds. The destroyed vessels were consumed by their neighbors, making the surviving ships larger and stronger. "Impossible," breathed Admiral Jeltar. "Our most powerful weapons barely scratched them." The Vorthak counterattack came like a plague. Instead of normal weapons, they launched clouds of aggressive biomatter that ate through shields and armor. Ships that were touched by the organic weapons began to dissolve from the outside in. The Nethari Dreadnought Crystal Star tried to retreat, but biotentacles reached out from a Vorthek cruiser and pulled it close. The crew screamed as their crystalline ship was slowly digested by the living vessel. "Fall back to secondary positions," Jung ordered, but it was too late. The bioships moved faster than seemed possible, surrounding elements of the fleet. A Delphin carrier tried to launch its fighters, but the small craft were consumed before they could fire a shot. The Emiri stormship Thunder's Edge dispersed its gaseous crew to escape. But the vortex somehow consumed even the scattered gas clouds. "Admiral, we're losing ships faster than we can count them," reported Captain Kim. His voice was steady. But Jung could see the fear in his eyes. Sanctuary Station itself came under attack. Biomatter acids ate through the outer hull while massive tentacles tried to crack the station open like a nut. Inside, 1,000,000 beings prayed to their various gods for salvation that would not come. Jung looked at the tactical display. In 30 minutes they had lost half the fleet. The Vorthak hadn't even used their largest ships yet. At this rate, everything would be over in an hour. "Send a final message to Earth," Jung ordered. "Tell them we tried. Tell them the children of Earth God forgive us." The message was transmitted just as another wave of bioships moved toward the station. Jung prepared to give the order to abandon ship when something impossible happened. Space itself seemed to crack open, reality tore like fabric, and something massive pushed through the gap. At first, Jung thought it was another Vorthik supership. Then he saw the clean lines and pearl white hull. It was a human vessel, but calling it a ship was like calling a mountain a rock. The vessel stretched for 50 kilometers in length. Its hull gleamed with an inner light that seemed to push back the darkness around it. Korean characters flowed along its sides in elegant script. The ship didn't just appear. It announced itself on every communication channel in the galaxy. "This is Captain Jinwoo Nam of the Terra Defense Force Vessel 1 Strike. All hostile forces will withdraw immediately or face the consequences." The voice was calm and professional, as if the speaker was discussing the weather rather than facing 8,000 enemy ships. Admiral Jung stared at the massive vessel in shock. How is that even possible? Nothing that large should be able to move. The Vorthak fleet paused in their attack. Even the Overmind seemed confused by this development. The bioships had encountered many species and ship designs, but nothing like this. On the bridge of the One Strike, Captain Nam stood calmly as his crew prepared for battle. The ship around him hummed with power that made the station's reactors seem like candles. "Sir," reported Weapons Officer B. Shin, "all Vorthak vessels are targeting us. They're moving to attack formation." "Let them come," Nam replied. "It's time to show the galaxy what humanity has been building." The largest Vorthak bioship, a creature the size of a small moon, moved toward the One Strike. Its hull pulsed with malevolent intelligence as it prepared to consume this new prey. The galaxy held its breath and waited to see if humanity's greatest creation could succeed where nothing else had even made a dent. The moment of truth had finally arrived. The Vorthik Overmind spoke through its largest bioship, a creature so massive it had its own gravitational field. The voice resonated across space, reaching every mind within 1,000 kilometers. "Human vessel, you arrived too late to save your allies. We have consumed 1,000 worlds. Your single ship, no matter how large, is merely another meal for the collective." Captain Nam stood on the bridge of the One Strike, his hands clasped behind his back. Around him, his crew worked with calm efficiency at stations that hummed with barely contained power. The bridge itself was larger than most ships, filled with displays showing every system in the massive vessel. "Communication from the Vorthak acknowledged," Nam replied over open channels. "You have 60 seconds to withdraw your forces from this system." Laughter echoed from the bioships. Not human laughter, but something wet and hungry that made listeners feel sick. The Overmind found the humans' ultimatum amusing. "You speak of withdrawal while surrounded by 8,000 ships. Your bravery is admirable but pointless. Observe how we deal with defiance." The Vorthik fleet opened fire with everything they had. Biomatter cannons launched streams of acidic death. Organic missiles trailing tendrils of living metal streaked toward the human vessel. The largest ships extruded massive tentacles that reached across space like grasping fingers. On the One Strike, Commander Haijin Yoon monitored the defensive systems. "Captain, massive incoming fire from all directions. Estimated impact in 15 seconds. Shields to full power," Nam ordered calmly. "Let's see what they've got." The Vorthik weapons struck the human ship with devastating force. Bioacids that could dissolve entire space stations splashed against the one strike's shields like water against stone. Organic missiles exploded harmlessly against energy barriers that didn't even flicker. The tentacles were more interesting. When they touched the ship's hull, something unexpected happened. The biomatter began to convulse and die. Whatever the human vessel was made of, organic matter couldn't process it. "Report," Nam requested. Chief Engineer Dong Hyun Kong checked his displays. Shields holding at 98% efficiency. Hull integrity perfect. The exotic matter coating is working as designed. Biological systems cannot interface with our ship. The Vorthek attacks intensified. Hundreds of ships swarmed around the one strike like bacteria attacking a white blood cell. They tried ramming attacks, boarding attempts, and weapons that had destroyed every enemy they had ever faced. Nothing worked. The human ship sat motionless in space, absorbing everything the biofleet could deliver. Its shields didn't weaken, its hull showed no damage. Most disturbing of all, the ship's crew seemed completely unconcerned. "This is impossible," the Overmind transmitted. "Our weapons have consumed the matter of entire star systems. How do you resist us?" Nam's response was broadcast to the entire galaxy. "You consume normal matter because you understand normal physics. We built something you cannot comprehend or digest. This ship exists partially outside your reality." The truth was even more impressive than Nam's words suggested. The one strike was built using principles that pushed the boundaries of known science. Its hull was composed of exotic matter that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Its shields operated by manipulating fundamental forces. Humanity had spent decades preparing for this moment. While other species focused on conventional weapons and traditional tactics, human scientists had worked to create something unprecedented. "Impossible or not," the Overmind replied, "you are still one ship against thousands. We will find a way to consume you." The largest bioships moved into position. Creatures the size of moons prepared to ram the human vessel directly. If they couldn't consume it, they would crush it through sheer mass. Nam watched the approaching ships without concern. "Weapons Officer Shin, are our systems ready?" There, Shin checked her console. The weapons display showed power levels that would have destroyed any normal ship just from the energy feedback. "All systems charged and ready, Captain." "Gravitational manipulator at full power. Excellent. Target the largest bioship, single shot." The weapons officer's hands moved across her controls. Deep within the one strike, mechanisms that existed partially outside normal space began to activate. The ship's main weapon was unlike anything that had ever been built. Most weapons destroyed targets by applying force or energy. The one strike's primary armament worked by manipulating gravity itself. It could create artificial black holes, tear holes in space-time, or simply erase matter from existence. "Target locked," Shin reported. "Weapon charged and ready to fire." The Vorthek supership rushed toward them, its biomass larger than most asteroids. Its hull writhed with thousands of smaller organisms, all focused on consuming the human vessel. The collective intelligence behind it was confident that nothing could survive such an impact. "Fire," Nam ordered quietly. The gravitational manipulator discharged with a sound like reality tearing. A beam of twisted space-time reached out from the one strike and touched the approaching bioship. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the Vorthek supership simply ceased to exist. Not destroyed, not blown apart, but erased from reality as if it had never been there at all. Silence filled space. 8,000 bioships stopped their attacks and floated motionless. The Overmind's collective consciousness reeled from the loss of such a large part of itself. "Interesting," Nam observed. "The weapon works as designed." "Weapons Officer, target the next largest concentration of enemy ships." "But Captain," Commander Yoon said softly, "there are thousands of them. Even with our weapons, it could take hours to eliminate them all one by one." Nam smiled for the first time since the battle began. "Who said anything about one by one?" "Chief Engineer, status on the main array?" Kang's voice was excited as he checked his readings. "Main gravitational array fully charged. We can target multiple ships simultaneously. The power core is operating at 115% efficiency. The one strike rotated slowly in space, its massive bulk moving with impossible grace. Along its hull, weapons ports open to reveal arrays of gravitational manipulators. Each one could erase ships from existence. Target priority vessels, Nam commanded. Begin systematic elimination of the Vorthok fleet. The human ship opened fire with dozens of weapons simultaneously. Beams of twisted gravity reached out across space, touching bioships that had terrorized the galaxy for years. Each touch meant instant death. Not destruction, but complete removal from reality. Vorthok vessels began disappearing in groups. A cluster of cruisers vanished, a formation of destroyers ceased to exist. The bioships tried to scatter, but the one strike's weapons had virtually unlimited range. "This cannot be happening," the Overmind screamed across all frequencies. "We are eternal. We have consumed countless civilizations. We cannot be defeated by a single vessel." But they were being defeated. The Vorthok fleet that had seemed unstoppable was being systematically erased. The survivors tried to flee, but the one strike was faster than anything they had ever encountered. Admiral Jung watched from Sanctuary Station in amazement. "How many ships have they destroyed?" "Over 2,000 in the last 10 minutes, Captain Kim reported. "Their weapons don't seem to have any limitations. Each shot completely eliminates the target." On the Nethari flagship, Admiral Geltar's crystalline form flickered with awe. "The humans built this in secret. While we debated and despaired, they prepared for total war." The Delphin Admiral Narthal floated in her command chamber, watching the impossible battle. "A single ship is destroying the largest fleet in Galactic history. How is this possible?" The answer came from Captain Nam himself as he broadcast to all surviving ships. "For too long, the galaxy has faced threats with conventional thinking. Humanity chose a different path. We built something that doesn't play by the rules our enemies understand." The Vorthok fleet was reduced to hundreds of ships, then dozens. The survivors bunched together, hoping their combined biomass could somehow resist the human weapons. It didn't help. Their gravitational beams passed through multiple targets, erasing everything they touched. Finally, only the original command ship remained. The creature that housed the core of the Overmind floated alone in space, its biomass pulsing with fear and rage. "This is not possible," it transmitted weakly. "We are the ultimate evolution of life in this galaxy. We cannot be destroyed by crude matter." Captain Nam's voice was calm as he replied. "You are not the ultimate evolution. You are a dead end. Life is meant to create and grow, not simply consume. You represent everything life should never become." The one strike turned its attention to the final bioship. Every weapon system locked onto the creature that had orchestrated genocide across dozens of worlds. "Any last words?" Nam asked. The Overmind's response was a scream of pure hatred that echoed across space. Then the gravitational beam reached out one final time. The galaxy's greatest threat simply stopped existing. Space fell silent except for the humming of the human ship's engines. Where 8,000 bioships had filled the void, only empty space remained. The Vorthok Empire, terror of the galaxy, had been completely eliminated. Captain Nam turned to his crew. "Excellent work, everyone. Secure all weapons and prepare for standard operations." As if erasing an entire fleet was just another day at the office. The shuttle bay of the One Strike was larger than most space stations. Diplomatic vessels from across the galaxy landed on the vast metal floor, their crews stepping out into corridors that stretched beyond the horizon. The human ship's interior was as impossible as its exterior. Ambassador Taeho Kim waited in the main reception hall to greet the delegates. The room could have held a small city. Crystal chandeliers the size of buildings hung from a ceiling so high it disappeared into shadows. The walls were decorated with flowing Korean calligraphy that seemed to move in the light. Admiral Minho Jung was the first to arrive. His face still showed shock from watching the battle. Behind him came the surviving alien commanders, their expressions ranging from awe to fear. "Welcome aboard the One Strike," Kim said with a slight bow. Captain Nam will join us shortly. First, please allow me to show you around our vessel. The tour began with a walk through the main corridors. The passages were wide enough for ground vehicles to drive through comfortably. Windows along the walls showed the ship's interior structure stretching into the distance. Admiral Zheltar's crystalline form flickered with confusion. Ambassador Kim, the ship's internal volume seems larger than its external dimensions. How is that possible? Kim smiled. Our engineers found ways to fold space within the hull. The ship exists in multiple dimensions simultaneously. What you see inside is only part of the total structure. They passed through engineering sections where massive reactors hummed with power that defied measurement. Chief Engineer Dong Hyan? Kang met them at the main power core. This single reactor produces more energy than most star systems, Kang explained. We learned to tap directly into the zero-point field of space itself. The power is essentially unlimited. The Delphin Admiral Narthel floated in her mobility suit, her aquatic eyes wide with wonder. Such technology should be impossible. How long did it take to develop? 40 years of research and 15 years of construction, Kang replied. Every major human world contributed resources and expertise. This ship represents the combined effort of our entire species. The weapons section was even more impressive. Biora Shin led them through chambers filled with gravitational manipulators and space-time distortion devices. The weapons that had erased the Vorthic fleet looked like abstract sculptures made of impossible angles. Each gravitational beam can target objects up to 50 light-years away, Shin explained. The weapons operate by creating controlled singularities that consume the target's mass energy. Nothing survives contact. Captain Wisiok Lee, who had fought the Vorthic scouts, shook his head in amazement. Why keep such weapons secret? With, technology like this, the galaxy would have been safe years ago. Ambassador Kim's expression grew serious. Because power like this changes everything. We needed to understand what kind of galaxy we were protecting before we revealed our capabilities. They continued to the ship's main conference room where Captain Nam waited. The chamber was circular and vast, with seats for hundreds of delegates. Holographic displays showed star charts and technical diagrams floating in the air. Please, be seated, Nam said as the delegates entered. I believe explanations are in order. The alien representatives took their places, still overwhelmed by the scale of everything around them. Some had brought recording devices to document what they were seeing. Admiral Young spoke first. Captain Nam, on behalf of the surviving fleet, I thank you for saving us. But I have to ask, how long has humanity possessed such technology? The basic theories were developed shortly after first contact with galactic civilization, Nam replied. Our scientists realized that peaceful coexistence wasn't guaranteed. While we participated in trade and diplomacy, we also prepared for the worst-case scenario. Dr. Yunji Choi entered the room carrying data tablets. As the project's head scientist, she had supervised the theoretical work that made the ship possible. The one strike represents advances in physics that most species won't achieve for thousands of years, she explained. We had to solve problems in dimensional engineering, exotic matter manipulation, and gravitational control that existed only in theory. Admiral Zheltar's crystal form dimmed with concern. Dr. Choi, such advanced weapons could easily conquer the galaxy. What prevents humanity from using them for aggressive purposes? The question hung in the air like a challenge. Every delegate waited for the answer that would determine their species' future relationship with humanity. Ambassador Kim stood to address the assembly. That brings us to the real purpose of this meeting. The galaxy has seen what human technology can accomplish. Now you need to understand human intentions. He activated a holographic display showing the history of Earth's wars. Images of ancient battles and modern conflicts filled the air above the conference table. Humanity has a violent past, Kim continued. We fought wars that lasted decades. We developed weapons that could destroy entire continents. We nearly drove ourselves extinct several times. The alien delegates shifted uncomfortably. These admissions seemed to confirm their worst fears about human nature. But we learned something from our conflicts, Kim added. The greatest victories come not from using superior force, but from choosing when not to use it. Power without restraint leads to destruction. Power with wisdom leads to protection. Fleet Admiral Sojin Park entered the room, her weathered face showing the strain of years spent building humanity's ultimate weapon. She took a seat at the table and addressed the assembly directly. "We could have revealed the one strike when the Vorthek first appeared," Park said. "One shot from our main weapon would have ended the threat immediately. But we waited." "Why?" asked Admiral Jung. "Millions died while you waited." Park's answer was simple but profound. "Because we needed to see who you really were. Some species would have demanded our technology for themselves. Others would have feared us and formed alliances against humanity. But when faced with extinction, you chose to stand together." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity had tested the galaxy's moral character before deciding whether to save it. Dr. Choi activated another display showing defensive installations around human worlds. "The one strike is not our only advanced vessel. We have a fleet of similar ships and defensive systems that could protect entire star clusters. But we built them for protection, not conquest." Commander Haijin Yoon joined the discussion. "Our long-range sensors monitor threats across the galaxy. The Vorthak were not the only danger we were tracking. There are other hostile forces in distant regions that may eventually threaten civilized space." The revelation that humanity had been watching and protecting the galaxy in secret changed everything. The species that others had seen as newcomers were actually the galaxy's hidden guardians. "What happens now?" asked the Emiri representative, her gaseous form swirling with uncertainty. Captain Nam stood and walked to the main display. "Now we work together to build a better galaxy. Humanity will share some of our defensive technology to help protect vulnerable worlds. In return, we ask for cooperation in monitoring potential threats." Ambassador Kim activated a final holographic display showing proposed defense networks and communication systems. "We're not seeking to rule the galaxy, we want to protect it. The one strike will patrol the outer rim, ensuring that threats like the Vorthak never again reach the core systems." Admiral Narthel floated forward in her mobility suit. "You're offering to be the galaxy's protectors. But what guarantees do we have that humanity won't abuse such power?" The answer came from an unexpected source. Admiral Young stepped forward and addressed his fellow military officers. "I've seen how they fight," he said. "The one strike could have destroyed our combined fleet as easily as it eliminated the Vorthek. Instead, they arrived at the exact moment when hope seemed lost. They saved us without demanding anything in return." Other delegates began to nod in agreement. The human ship's actions spoke louder than any diplomatic promises. "There's something else," Captain Nam added. "Humanity is not the only species developing advanced technology. Given time and cooperation, others will achieve similar capabilities. We're offering to share knowledge so that defensive systems become common rather than unique." The meeting continued for hours as details were worked out. Trade agreements, defense pacts, and technology sharing arrangements were discussed. But the fundamental relationship had already been established. Humanity would serve as the galaxy's protector, not its ruler. The one strike and ships like it would guard the borders of civilized space while allowing each species to govern itself freely. As the delegates prepared to return to their ships, Admiral Jung approached Captain Nam privately. "One last question," Jung said. "The name of your ship, One Strike. What does it mean?" Nam smiled as he looked out at the stars beyond the conference room windows. "It means that sometimes one decisive action can change the course of history." The galaxy was facing extinction. One strike was all it took to save it. The human captain paused, then added quietly, "But the name also reminds us that we only get one chance to use power responsibly. We intend to make it count." As the diplomatic vessels departed, the One Strike began its first patrol of the outer rim. The galaxy's newest guardian ship moved silently through space, watching for threats that might never come. Behind it, the 6 months after the Battle of Sanctuary Station, the galaxy had begun to heal. Trade routes reopened. Colonies were rebuilt. Children played in parks on worlds that had been marked for Vorthok consumption. But in the depths of space, new threats were stirring. Captain Jinwoo Nam stood on the observation deck of the One Strike, watching distant stars through reinforced transparent steel. His ship patrolled the outer rim, moving between systems that had never known protection before. The vessel's sensors reached across dozens of light years, monitoring for anything that might threaten the peace. "Captain," Commander Haijin Yun reported from the bridge, "we're receiving a distress signal from the Kepler research station. They report unidentified vessels in their system." Nam made his way to the bridge, his footsteps echoing through corridors that could house entire cities. The One Strike had become home to 3,000 crew members, each one chosen for their skills and dedication to protecting galactic civilization. "Details on the unknown vessels?" Nam asked as he took his command chair. Tactical Officer Jisung Park consulted his displays. "Long-range sensors show 12 ships of unknown configuration. They're not matching any known species in our database. The vessels appear to be scanning the research station." The research station was important. Kepler 7 housed scientists from 6 different species working on projects that could benefit the entire galaxy. If hostile forces were threatening the facility, the One Strike needed to respond. "Set course for the Kepler system," Nam ordered. "Maximum speed?" The massive ship turned with surprising grace and accelerated into hyperspace. Within hours, they arrived at the research station to find a tense standoff in progress. The unknown ships were unlike anything in the galactic database. They looked like they were grown rather than built, with organic curves and surfaces that seemed to shift in the light. But unlike the Vorthok bioships, these vessels showed clear signs of advanced technology. "Hail the unknown vessels," Nam commanded. Communications Officer Sung-Ho Lee worked at his station. "No response, Captain." "They're not acknowledging our transmission." The research station contacted the One Strike directly. Dr. Min-A Choi, the station director, appeared on the main screen. Her face showed relief at seeing the human warship. "Captain Nam, thank you for responding so quickly. These ships appeared 6 hours ago and have been scanning our facility ever since. They won't respond to communication attempts." "Have they made any threatening moves?" Nam asked. "Not yet, but their scans are incredibly detailed. They're mapping every system on the station. We're concerned they might be planning an attack." Nam studied the tactical display. The unknown ships were clearly advanced, but they seemed more curious than hostile. Their scanning patterns suggested scientific interest rather than military reconnaissance. "Unknown vessels," Nam broadcast on all frequencies. "This is Captain Nam of the Terra Defense Force ship One Strike. You're scanning a peaceful research facility without permission. Please identify yourselves and state your intentions." This time, there was a response. The lead ship transmitted a signal that bypassed normal communication systems and spoke directly to the minds of everyone in the area. "We are the architects. We have observed the recent elimination of the Vorthok corruption. We wish to examine the beings responsible for this cleansing." The mental voice was calm but ancient, carrying the weight of millennia. Nam had never encountered telepathic communication before, but he recognized intelligence when he heard it. "I am Captain Nam. We eliminated the Vorthok because they threatened innocent life. What is your interest in this matter?" "We have watched this galaxy for 10,000 years, waiting for species to prove themselves worthy of advancement. Your actions against the Vorthok suggest potential. We must evaluate your capabilities." Chief Science Officer Yoonji Choi, who had transferred to the One Strike after the ship's completion, worked frantically at her station. "Captain, I'm detecting massive energy readings from those ships. Their technology is far beyond anything we've encountered." The lead architect vessel moved closer to the One Strike, its organic hull shifting patterns as it approached. Despite Being much smaller than the human ship, it radiated power that made the space around it distort. Your vessel is interesting, the architect voice continued. Dimensional manipulation, exotic matter construction, gravitational weapons, crude but effective. You show promise. Nam felt a flash of irritation at having humanity's greatest achievement called crude. Our technology served its purpose. The galaxy is safe from the Vorthak threat. The Vorthak were merely one danger among many. Greater threats exist in the spaces between galaxies. We seek species capable of defending against such enemies. Dr. Troy's readings became more urgent. Captain, the architect ships are conducting incredibly detailed scans of our vessel. They're analyzing our hull composition, power systems, even our crew's biologies. Unknown vessels, cease your scanning immediately, Nam commanded. You do not have permission to examine our ship or crew. The mental laughter that followed was not mocking, but genuinely amused. Permission? Child species, you have much to learn about the hierarchy of existence. However, your defiance is noted and appreciated. The scanning stopped, but Nam could sense the architects were still evaluating everything around them. Their ships moved with purpose that suggested vast intelligence and even vaster patience. Captain Nam of the humans, the voice continued, your species has passed the first test by eliminating a galactic-level threat. We offer you the chance to undergo further evaluation. What kind of evaluation? Nam asked carefully. You will face challenges designed to test your worthiness for advancement. Success will grant your species access to technologies that will make your current achievements seem primitive. Failure will result in your species being marked as unworthy of further development. The implications were staggering. The architects were offering humanity a chance to advance far beyond their current level, but the cost of failure was unclear and potentially severe. What if we refuse your evaluation? Nam asked. Then you remain as you are, advanced enough to handle local threats, but inadequate for the greater challenges that approach. The choice is yours, but know that other species in distant galaxies have already begun their own evaluations. Commander Yoon spoke quietly from her station. Captain, Admiral Park is requesting immediate communication. She says this is a Code 1 priority situation, Nam nodded. Put her through on a secure channel. Admiral Sojin Park's image appeared on a secondary screen. Her expression was grimmer than Nam had ever seen it. Captain, we're detecting architect vessels throughout human space. They've appeared simultaneously at every major colony and military installation. How many ships? Nam asked. Hundreds, possibly thousands. They're not threatening anyone, but they're clearly making a statement. The entire human defense force is on high alert. Dr. Choi looked up from her readings. Captain, the energy signatures suggest these ships could easily destroy anything we have. If they wanted to harm us, we would already be gone. Nam considered the situation. Humanity had just become the galaxy's protector, only to discover they were still children compared to truly advanced species. The architects were offering advancement, but at an unknown price. Architect vessels, Nam broadcast, humanity will consider your offer. We require time to consult with our leadership and make a decision that affects our entire species. Time is a luxury, but we grant you one of your solar cycles to decide. Be aware that other threats are approaching this galaxy. The Vorthak were merely the first wave of a larger corruption spreading across the universe. The architect ships began to withdraw, but not before transmitting one final message. Captain Nam, your vessel showed impressive capability against the Vorthak. We look forward to seeing if humanity can rise to face even greater challenges. As the unknown vessels disappeared into hyperspace, Nam was left with the most difficult decision in human history. Accept the architect's evaluation and risk everything for advancement, or refuse and face unknown threats with current technology. Sir, Communications Officer Lee reported, we're receiving priority messages from across the galaxy. The Galactic Council is requesting emergency sessions. Every species wants to know what the architect appearance means. Nam looked out at the stars, knowing that somewhere in the darkness, greater threats were approaching. The one strike had saved the galaxy once, but would it be enough for what was coming? Set course for Earth, he ordered. It's time for humanity to make another impossible decision. The ship turned toward home, carrying the weight of galactic civilization's future in its hull. Behind them, space seemed darker than before, filled with possibilities both wonderful and terrifying. The galaxy's guardians were about to discover they were still students in a universe full of teachers. Whether those lessons would elevate humanity or destroy them remained to be seen. The emergency session of the Human Defense Council took place in the most secure facility on Earth, deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. Representatives from every human world gathered to decide their species' fate. The meeting chamber was circular, with seats arranged in concentric rings around a central holographic display. Admiral Sojin Park stood at the center, her weathered face showing the strain of recent events. Around her, the most brilliant minds humanity had produced debated the greatest decision in their history. The architect offer is clear, said Dr. Yoonji Choi, now serving as Chief Science Advisor. They promise technological advancement far beyond our current capabilities, but they also warn of consequences for failure. Secretary of Defense Changmin Lee leaned forward in his chair. What exactly are these consequences? The architects were deliberately vague about what happens if we fail their evaluation. Ambassador Tae-ho Kim, recently returned from emergency sessions with the Galactic Council, activated a series of displays. Our xenobiologists have studied the architect communications. Their mental patterns suggest a species that has existed for millions of years. They view galactic civilizations the way we might view ant colonies. That's hardly reassuring, muttered General Kyung-ho Bae. If we're just insects to them, what stops them from stepping on us? The question hung in the air as council members considered the implications. Humanity had just learned they were powerful enough to save the galaxy, only to discover they were still insignificant compared to truly ancient species. Captain Jin Woo-nam entered the chamber, having traveled directly from the one strike. His presence commanded immediate attention from the assembled leaders. Captain Nam, Admiral Park acknowledged. Please share your assessment of the architect capabilities. Nam took his place at the speaker's podium. Their ships operate on principles we don't understand. Our most advanced sensors could barely analyze their hull composition. They moved through space without visible propulsion and communicated through direct mental contact. Dr. Choi activated technical displays showing the data collected during the encounter. The energy readings were off our scales. A single architect vessel could likely destroy our largest battle groups without effort. So we're dealing with a species that could eliminate humanity whenever they choose, Secretary Lee observed. That changes the nature of their offer significantly. Intelligence Director Won Seok Park entered the chamber carrying classified files. We've analyzed communications intercepts from across the galaxy. The architects haven't just contacted humanity, they've approached 12 other species with similar offers. Which species? Asked Admiral Park. The Nethari, Delphins, Emiri, and 9 others. All species that showed courage during the Vorthic crisis. It appears the architects are testing multiple civilizations simultaneously. The implications were sobering. Humanity wasn't unique in receiving this opportunity. They were part of a larger evaluation process involving the galaxy's most promising species. What do we know about these evaluations? Nam asked. Director Park consulted his files. Historical analysis suggests the architects conduct these tests approximately every 10,000 years. Species that pass gain access to advanced technology and join some kind of greater community. Species that fail ... Quote, what happens to the failures? Dr. Choi pressed. We don't know. Those species simply stop advancing. They remain at their current technological level indefinitely, as if they've hit an invisible barrier to further development. A chill settled over the chamber. The choice wasn't just between advancement and status quo. It was between growth and stagnation. President Min Jun-yoon, leader of the United Earth government, spoke for the first time during the session. Has any species ever refused the evaluation entirely? Unknown, Director Park replied. Our records don't go back far enough to document previous testing cycles. The debate continued for hours. Some argued that humanity should accept the challenge, believing their demonstrated capabilities would see them through any test. Others advocated for caution, pointing out that their current technology was sufficient to protect the galaxy from known threats. Admiral Park called for a recess, allowing smaller groups to discuss the decision privately. In a side chamber, the military leadership gathered around Captain Nam. "What's your gut feeling about this?" asked General Nam, considered carefully before answering. "The architects aren't malicious. They single quotes selective. They genuinely seem to want species to advance, but only if those species meet their standards. Standards we don't understand," Commander Yun pointed out, having accompanied Nam from the one strike. "True," Nam acknowledged. "But consider our recent history. 6 months ago, we revealed the one strike and saved the galaxy from extinction. Now we're being offered a chance to advance even further. Perhaps this is the natural progression for species that prove themselves worthy." Dr. Choi joined the group, carrying data tablets filled with theoretical calculations. "I've been analyzing the architect ship configurations. Their technology appears to be based on manipulation of fundamental forces we can barely detect, let alone understand." "Could we learn such techniques?" asked Admiral Park. "Given enough time and guidance, possibly. But it would require abandoning much of our current understanding of physics. We would essentially be starting over from a more advanced foundation." The implications were staggering. Accepting the architect evaluation meant potentially revolutionizing human civilization. Refusing meant remaining forever limited by current understanding. A priority communication interrupted their discussion. Communications Officer Seung-Ho Lee's voice came through the chamber speakers. "Admiral Park, urgent message from the Galactic Council. Council Speaker Velther requests immediate consultation with human leadership." The call was routed to the main chamber, where Velther's crystalline form appeared as a hologram. Her usually calm demeanor showed clear signs of distress. "Human leaders," she began, "the galaxy faces a crisis beyond the architect evaluations. Our long-range sensors have detected massive disturbances at the galactic edge. Something is approaching from intergalactic space." Admiral Park leaned forward. "What kind of disturbances?" "Energy signatures unlike anything in our database. The readings suggest ships or structures larger than star systems. Whatever is coming makes the Vorthok fleet look insignificant." Dr. Choi's face went pale as she processed the implications. "How long until they arrive?" "At current approach speeds, approximately 5 years, but the energy signatures are increasing. They may be accelerating." The chamber fell silent as the true scope of the situation became clear. The architects hadn't been exaggerating about greater threats. Something was approaching that would make the Vorthok crisis seem like a minor skirmish. Speaker Velther. President Yoon asked, "Have the architects provided any information about these approaching threats?" "Only that they are what the architects call the devourers, unlike the Vorthok, which sought to consume matter for growth. These entities apparently seek to consume existence itself." The phrase sent chills through everyone present. Consuming matter was one thing. Consuming existence suggested something that operated beyond normal physical laws. "This changes everything," Admiral Park said quietly. "If threats of that magnitude are approaching, we may need every advantage we can get." Nam nodded grimly. "The architect's evaluation isn't just an opportunity for advancement. It may be preparation for survival." Dr. Choi activated new displays, showing theoretical calculations. "If entities can consume existence itself, our current weapons would be useless. Even the gravitational manipulators might not affect something that operates outside normal reality." The debate resumed with new urgency. What had seemed like a choice between advancement and caution now appeared to be a choice between preparation and helplessness. "We need more information," declared Secretary Lee. "Can we contact the architects directly?" I can try, Nam offered. The one strike seemed to interest them. They might be willing to answer questions. Do it, President Yoon ordered. But be careful what you ask. We don't want to seem weak or unprepared. As plans were made to contact the architects, the weight of decision pressed down on humanity's leaders. They had thought saving the galaxy from the Vorthak was their greatest challenge. Now they faced something that could potentially end existence itself. The choice was no longer about advancement versus safety. It was about having the tools necessary to face the unthinkable. The question remained whether humanity was ready to pay whatever price the architects demanded for such tools. Outside the mountain facility, the stars continued to shine with the same light they had for billions of years. But somewhere in the darkness between galaxies, something was approaching that could extinguish those lights forever. Humanity's next decision would determine whether their species would rise to face this ultimate challenge or remain forever limited by their current understanding of reality. The clock was ticking, and the stakes could not have been higher. The one strike floated in the void between galaxies, farther from home than any human had ever traveled. Around the massive ship, space itself seemed different. The familiar stars were too distant to provide light, leaving only the eerie glow of cosmic radiation and the ship's own illumination. Captain Jinwoo Nam stood on the observation deck, watching as his crew made final preparations. 3 years had passed since humanity accepted the architect evaluation. 3 years of tests that had pushed human understanding beyond all previous limits. The first test had been technological, upgrading the one strike with architect designs that made its original capabilities seem primitive. The ship now existed simultaneously in multiple dimensions. Its weapons could manipulate the fundamental forces that held reality together. The second test had been moral, proving that humanity would use such power responsibly. When the architects placed them in scenarios where ultimate force was an option, humans consistently chose the minimum necessary response. The third test had been collaborative, working with other species to solve problems no single civilization could handle alone. Humanity had helped the Nithari, Delphins, and 6 other species through their own evaluations. Now came the final test. The Devourers had arrived at the galaxy's edge, and their true nature was worse than anyone had imagined. Captain, Commander. Hai Jin-Yun reported from the bridge. All Allied ships report ready. The architect fleet is in position. Nam made his way to the bridge, passing through corridors that hummed with power beyond comprehension. The one strike was no longer just a human vessel. It had become something new, a hybrid of human engineering and architect knowledge that represented the best of both species. On the bridge, his crew worked at stations that existed partially outside normal spacetime. The weapons that had once seemed impossible now felt inadequate compared to what they faced. Status report on the Devourers. Nam requested. Tactical Officer Ji-Sung Park consulted displays that showed information in ways that hurt to look at directly. Long-range sensors confirmed 12 entities approaching. Each one is approximately the size of a solar system. They're not ships in any conventional sense. Dr. Yoonji Choi, now serving as the ship's reality physics specialist, studied readings that defied all previous understanding. Captain, the Devourers aren't just consuming matter and energy. They're unmaking the fundamental structure of existence itself. Space and time cease to function in their wake. The magnitude of the threat was beyond anything humanity had imagined. The Vorthak had consumed matter to grow stronger. The Devourers consumed the very fabric of reality, leaving nothing behind, not even empty space. Communication from the Architect flagship, reported communications. Officer Suho Lee, the lead architect, appeared as a projection that spoke directly to the minds of everyone present. Its voice carried the weight of millions of years of experience. Human. Vessel 1 Strike, you have completed your species evaluation with distinction. Today you face the reason such evaluations exist. The Devourers represent entropy-given consciousness, the end of all existence if they cannot be stopped. Nam stepped forward. What exactly are we fighting? Our sensors show massive entities, but they don't behave like any life form we understand. The Devourers are consciousness from outside this reality, seeking to drag our universe back into the void from which it emerged. They cannot be reasoned with, cannot be negotiated with. They can only be stopped by beings who understand existence well enough to defend it. On the tactical display, the Devourers continued their approach. Where they passed, the very concept of space ceased to exist. Stars, planets, entire star systems simply stopped being real. How do we fight something that can unmake existence? Asked Chief Engineer Dong Hyen Kong from his station. The architect's mental voice carried grim determination. By proving that existence is stronger than void. Your ship has been equipped with reality anchors, devices that can stabilize the fundamental structure of spacetime itself. Combined with your gravitational weapons, you may be able to force the Devourers back into non-existence. The battle plan was unlike anything in military history. Instead of targeting enemy ships or strategic positions, they would be fighting to maintain the basic structure of reality itself. All alive vessels report ready, Commander Yoon announced. The combined fleet includes upgraded ships from 9 species and 12 architect vessels. Nam looked at the tactical display showing their forces. It seemed pitifully small compared to what they faced, but it represented the best of galactic civilization. Open channels to all ships, Nam ordered. This is Captain Nam of the One Strike. Today we fight not for territory or resources, but for the right of existence itself. Every being that has ever lived, every star that has ever shone, depends on our success. The Devourers reached the galaxy's outer rim and the true horror began. Entire star systems simply ceased to exist as the entities passed through them. Not destroyed, not consumed, but retroactively made to have never existed in the first place. All ships, advance to combat range, Nam commanded. Activate reality anchors. The One Strike led the fleet forward, its hull glowing with energies that existed beyond normal physics. Around it, allied vessels from across the galaxy moved in formation, each one equipped with the most advanced technology their species could produce. As they approached the first Devourer, space itself began to break down. Navigation became impossible, as the concepts of distance and direction lost meaning. Only the reality anchors kept the ships from being unmade along with everything else. In range of primary target, reported Weapons Officer Bo Ra Shin. Gravitational manipulators locked on? What passes for the entity's core structure? Fire, Nam ordered. The One Strike unleashed weapons that could unmake matter itself, but the beams passed through the Devourer without effect. The entity continued its advance, unmaking the space around it. Weapons ineffective, Shin reported. The target doesn't exist in the same reality as our attacks. Dr. Choi worked frantically at her station. Captain, I'm reading massive distortions in the quantum substrate. The Devourer is trying to undo our reality anchors. If they fail, we'll cease to exist. The architect vessels moved into position around the human ship. Their ancient technology began to reinforce the anchors, creating a bubble of stable existence around the fleet. Human Captain, the lead architect transmitted, your weapons must target the void itself, not the entity. Strike at the absence of existence. It was like trying to shoot darkness instead of the object casting a shadow. Nam had to trust in technology and theories beyond human understanding. Target the void surrounding the entity, he ordered. Fire everything we have. The One Strike and its allied vessels opened fire on empty space, their weapons seeking to destroy nothingness itself. The paradox should have been impossible, but the upgraded systems began to work, where the gravitational beams struck void. Reality reasserted itself. Space and time snapped back into existence like rubber bands under tension. The Devourer's advance slowed as it encountered resistance it had never faced before. It's working, Dr. Choi reported. We're forcing existence back into the void. The entity is losing coherence. But the victory was temporary. The other Devourers converged on their position, their combined assault threatening to overwhelm the reality anchors. Captain, Commander Yoon said urgently, anchor stability dropping rapidly. We can't maintain existence much longer, Nam made the hardest decision of his career. All ships except the one strike fall back to minimum safe distance. We're going